Plummer. And it takes an awful lot of work to win for office. And unfortunately, all three of the candidates up here will win. Only one can. But all of them are to be congratulated because it's a grueling task to run for office. So let's give them a hand for that. Now I want to thank you for coming. 4 years ago, if we would have a Republican event, we might have had 5 people show up. I don't know how many we have here tonight, but there's 2.
Thank you. I think you know me from the Belleville area. I grew up in Fairview High School to Belleville. I was a freshman in high school, was a detective, homicide investigator, major case lawyer. Private businessman out here in Fairview, found in St. Cloud Park, as 40 years business, a sportbook company. 20 years ago, life was great for me, but I got fed up with what was going on in Belleville. Said that to a fellow detective one morning, and I said, we got to find somebody to run for mayor. He pointed at me and said, you're the only guy I know who can do it. I knew 24 hours later that I had to take him on because nobody else had the courage to take on the Democratic machine and go. I went and talked to a few friends for the next few days, and on my 36th birthday, I announced I'm going to take on the Democratic machine and Bob Spray because I cared about the people of the city of Belleville. Guess what? I won. Held the line on taxes. Threw Bob Sprague out of office on the 21st after being elected on April 20th, took office April 1st, eliminated insurance for 16 part-time Aldermen who had full-time insurance in 1993, downsized government, ran it like a business, reduced crime every year I was in office, led the region 3 out of 4 years in economic development. Not only did I go to the people and tell them what needed to be done, I got in office and I did it, and I did a lot more. Never worked harder in my life, and never more prouder of that 4 years that I was in office. My closing statement tonight, I'll tell you why I'm running today and how that happened. Very simple. But I'm in this race to win it because we need to send somebody to Washington, D.C. to represent our values, to represent conservative values that this country was founded on. Not somebody who's going to go up there, join the club, that's part of the club. I'm a true conservative, but fiscally and socially, and you can't move me off of those issues. Thank you.
I think I'm going to stand because I'm the shortest person here, and that way people in the back can see me.
Can everybody hear okay in the back?
Yeah, just keep it close to your mouth.
Closer? Does that help?
Yes.
I'm moving closer. Okay, is this better?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
Sorry. People are shaking their heads.
Well, we got this blower back here that's kind of deafening things.
Okay. Is this any better? Yes? Can you hear me? People are still shaking their heads way in the back. Well, right. Put lipstick on.
Time's up.
Okay. Oh, this sounds louder. Yeah. Kind of echoes for me. Okay. I'm Theresa Kormos, and I'm the candidate of leadership and experience and transparency. I have 34 years of experience in the healthcare area, in all areas, and not just on the city level or state level, but I have national and international accomplishments. I turned around a program, it was a federal program, in 1 year I turned it around to be an award-winning program internationally, and I did it on a shoestring budget. Now that's the kind of people we need in Washington, D.C. We also, I have experience with budgets, and I found a problem in a large medical center where they were losing funds, couldn't track it. I implemented a tracking system that was successful. So again, that's the kind of people we need in Washington who can be able to track money as well as, you know, to rein in the fraud, waste, and abuse. I've published many articles in scientific papers, in journals, and the reason I'm bringing that up is because it points that I work well with other people, and I'm productive, and I get things done. I'm a person that's always been a leader in my profession. I'm recognized nationally and internationally, and I do get things done. I was the first to announce that I was running against Jerry Costello long before he stepped down to retire. I was the first person to release my tax papers. I was also the first and only person that has a contract with you that I will only run for 4 terms, and I waive the benefit of a pension, because that's not why I'm going to Washington, D.C. I'm going to fight for our country, and you don't need to pay me to do that. Okay, and I look forward to hearing all your questions, and I'm going to turn this mic over.
I'm Jason Plummer, and first and foremost, I'd like to thank Tim and everyone who helped put this on. This is a great event, and obviously, like you said, a few years ago, it would have been hard to get a dozen Republicans here, and to see this crowd, it's really encouraging. I'd also like to thank you all. You know, people all the time, they say, why are you running? And I tell people, I think this election cycle is far too important to sit on the sidelines. And by being here tonight, you guys show you're not going to sit on the sidelines, so I appreciate you being here. You know, I'm a small businessman. I'm an intelligence officer in the Navy Reserves. My unit's actually based at Scott Air Force Base. And I can tell you, I'm in this race for one reason and one reason only. It's not about being a congressman. This race is about Jason Plummer running for Congress. This race is about one thing: changing the dynamics of the 12th Congressional District from this day forward. And we have the opportunity to do that. And it's not just a congressional race, folks. This race is about utilizing our resources, utilizing the resources that are going to come into this campaign, running the type of campaign with the type of candidate that we need to make sure that not only do we win this congressional seat, but we pick up seats up and down the ballot. In 2010, when I was your Lieutenant Governor nominee, we did that. We picked up seats across the state. We picked up seats across the Metro East. We picked up seats down south, county board, county-wide, state legislative. Not that we took back seats that we had never held before. And this is the one opportunity we've had in a long time. For the last 72 years, this seat has been held by 2 people. I think that goes beyond the original intents and purposes of our founding fathers. I think it is embarrassing. I think it's a disrespect to you all, the voters. And I think that if we're going to change that, we've got to put forward a candidate. And I would argue to you that I'm the most conservative candidate in this race. And I would argue to you, most importantly, that I'm the candidate in this race that's been a conservative, fighting in the Metro East for a long time, as a Republican, pushing our values. The Democrats are going to fight tooth and nail for the seat. We need a candidate who's vetted, and we need a candidate that knows what's coming, and most importantly, folks, we need a candidate that's a true conservative, that's always been a true conservative, to make sure not only do we pick up this congressional seat, but we pick up a whole lot of Republican seats down ballot as well. I think I'm the candidate to do that, and I appreciate your support.
Okay, what's going to happen now for the rest of the questions, each candidate is going to get exactly a minute to respond. Brenda's going to kind of wave her hand like this when that minute's up. We'd like you to wind up your comments as presented. All right, first question. First question is, in terms of jobs, what policies do you think we ought to pursue to change that now exists to increase the number of jobs that are available to you?
Okay, right. In order to create jobs, we need to do a lot of things. And first of all, we need to change the tax code. And that's been the pivotal point of my platform. I favor like a flat tax. And we also, besides a true tax reform, we also need to get energy independence. We need to start drilling. We've got a wealth of coal right here in Illinois. We also have natural gas. We're talking about fracking down in Franklin County. And so all those things will create jobs. And we've got to repeal the EPA regulations, Obamacare, Dodd-Frank, to get the burdens off the businessman's back, because 95% of all jobs are created by the small business owner. And all these things will stimulate jobs. Thank you.
Well, first and foremost, I think if we're going to create jobs, we need to understand how we're going to create the jobs. We have to look at the assets and the resources that we have in this district. It's a pretty diverse district. Down south, we're blessed with oil reserves, natural gas reserves, coal reserves. We have more BTUs in southern Illinois coal than Saudi Arabia has in oil. It's a proven fact. Up here in the Metro East, we've obviously got Scott Air Force Base, we've got institutions of higher education, we've got a lot of things going for us up here, but obviously we have St. Louis, a lot of big companies. What we have to do, folks, is we've got to utilize the resources we've been blessed with. And I've argued from the very beginning, I don't care where at in the country we're talking about, I don't think there's a part of this country as blessed as Southern Illinois. If you look at our access to natural resources, if you look at our access to transportation networks, road, rail, river, here in St. Clair County we've got a lot of air infrastructure. If you look at everything we have going for us, a large educated workforce, there's absolutely no reason why we struggle with the unemployment we have. Believe it or not, up here in the Metro East, we're better off than we are downstate to a lot of degrees. There's a lot of communities downstate that have double-digit unemployment and have had it for nearly a decade. Folks, we need to understand that it's not a lack of natural resources, it's not a lack of human talent, it's poor public policy that's cost us these jobs, it's cost us these industries. I think we need a businessman that understands how to change our public policy to bring those jobs back.
The number one issue in this country is jobs and the economy. I'll tell you exactly what we need to do, and history will prove it, and all of you will remember this. In 1963, John F. Kennedy was president. This country was in a recession. What did he do to get us out of recession? Cut income taxes across the board. He cut the top bracket over 20%, a Democrat. Guess what happened? The people that earned the money got to keep more of it, spend it, create jobs with it, invest it. The economy took off. In 1963, we were bringing in $95 billion to the U.S. Treasury in income taxes. By 68, with the Kennedy tax cuts in place, we're bringing in $153 billion. We can't tax our way out of this debt, but we can sure get out of the way, get government out of the way, and put these people back to work. Who did it next? Ronald Reagan in the 80s, after the Jimmy Carter malaise. We not only have to reduce the taxes, but we also have to cut corporate taxes so we're competitive with the foreign countries that are stealing all of our manufacturing jobs. We do that, get the regulations off the small businesses, our trucking firms, right here in the state of Illinois. We get a comprehensive energy policy, get off of foreign oil, put our miners back to work, drill for oil, drill for natural gas, and put Americans back to work. And this economy will start roaring, and our kids and grandchildren will have a heck of a future just like we have. Thank you.
Raise your hand if you'll vote to get rid of Obamacare. Okay, we'll let you do. You know you want to get rid of it. What policies would you adopt to help our home?
Well, I don't think there's anybody in the room that would argue that the healthcare system has problems. The problem with Obamacare, though, is it has absolutely nothing to do with fixing healthcare. It has everything to do with taking 1/6 of the national economy and putting it under government control. If Obamacare was about healthcare, we would be allowing folks to cross state borders to purchase insurance. We would be discussing things like tort reform. If we have tort reform, get rid of the frivolous lawsuits like us in St. Clair County, Madison County know all about. We get rid of defensive medicine, we lower medical malpractice bills, and we make medicine less expensive. We'd also talk about bringing private marketplace into the practice. One problem with healthcare is there's a huge disconnect between the provider and the end user. It's one of the few industries where that disconnect truly exists. And I'll give you a couple examples. Anyone that's followed the price of, say, LASIK eye surgery over the last few years has seen the quality of LASIK eye surgery go straight up and the cost of LASIK eye surgery go straight down. And the reason why is we've gotten rid of that third-party payer. We've connected the end user and the provider. What we need to do in healthcare is get rid of Obamacare. But if we just get rid of Obamacare and do nothing else, we fail. We have to provide alternatives and solutions to solve the problems. And the way we do that are a few of the things I mentioned. I'm getting waved at here. But if you want healthcare, folks, there's three things: providing better access, providing better quality care, and bringing down the costs. Obamacare does none of that. The things I propose do all three things.
There is not much that I like about the Affordable Care Act. It's so much more costly than even the Democratic Party that forced it down our throat. There is one thing I do like about it, and I've learned about that during this campaign. And it was a father in Redbud that called me and said, I like everything you stand for. I don't like Obamacare, but I've got a daughter who's 21 years old, and because of Obamacare, she gets to stay on my insurance. We can't afford to send her to college, but I can't not let her off my insurance. And if we didn't have that, what would I do? She'd have to go on welfare and with proud people, and she gets the free insurance and stuff. So I told him, well, I got to admit, I've got a 21-year-old daughter that's on my insurance, and I sense your pain. So that's one area. We all are good people. We all want to help others that need to help up. We just are fed up with giving you handouts. So I'm for repealing Obamacare and looking at ways that we can continue to help those that really need it. But the free market is the way to go. Let them compete and lower prices that way. Thank you.
Well, I've worked in healthcare for 34 years, and I could go into a long history, but we don't have that time. But yes, healthcare is not a privilege and it's not a right. It's a service. And it's a service that should be based on the free market system. And to make healthcare more accessible and to lower the cost, it needs to be built on choice and competition, such as those things about changing the Commerce Clause so people can purchase insurance across state lines, much like buying car insurance, okay? And it gives people choices. We also need to have the health savings accounts, because this also gives people choice. For example, Whole Foods. They offered their employees a high deductible, but it was coupled with health savings plan. And that was something the employees liked because it gave them choice, and it also brought down Obamacare. Is going to be decided within a few months by the Supreme Court, and the severability clause is a real issue.
Nothing changes for you. That's pretty comforting, isn't it? If you're 55 and over, I'm 55, nothing changes for you. You've worked your whole life, you've worked under the contract with this country, you paid in. Paul Ryan's plan says nothing changes. Those under 55, depending on your age, you're going to have to work longer before you can access the benefits, because you're going to live longer, because the medical field continues to get better and better. Now, those that are very wealthy, that have lived the American dream and made $1 million zillion, they really don't need the benefits. So we ask them in Paul Ryan's plan, don't take it. It's time that you give back. And so on this plan, they don't get Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, because they can afford it. They've lived the American dream. There's a few other options in there for the next generations, but it saves it out, it balances our budget out 8 to 10 years, and it saves Medicaid that's going to be broke in 2013 because Obamacare took $500 billion out of Medicaid. Thank you.
Okay, Medicaid. The federal government needs to put a cap on what they give to states, rather than have the states continually put people on their welfare and the federal government contributes. We need to cap that. And also give the states more freedom then to be able to use the money appropriately or creatively, let's say. And as far as Medicare again, it has to do with health care. It's about choice and competition. What I believe is giving seniors a voucher and allowing them to put it to the health care plan that they want. Just like the same kind of program that our federal employees have and members of Congress. So they can put it towards, do you want the simple HMO plan, or do you want the Cadillac plan of Blue Cross Blue Shield? And then you can put that voucher based on a certain percentage toward that plan. And it might mean, depending on what you choose, that you can put the difference out of pocket to the plan that you want. Okay.
There are some similarities between Obamacare and then, of course, the Medicaid, Medicare crisis that we're in right now. Anybody that tells you that they're going to solve the federal budget problems without touching the entitlement programs is being intellectually dishonest with you, because it's not possible. I mean, they are the big problem that we're facing right now. And what we have to do as Republicans, because I think we've done a poor job of messaging, is assure the seniors that are out there that are currently retired that we don't want to touch what you have right now at all. We have to assure the people that are 55 and older that we are not going to touch what you have at all. But for those folks less than 55, we have to understand that we have to look at new ways of doing things. Obviously, as I was talking about in Obamacare, access and quality is very important. We have to make sure that we continue to have the best access and the best quality of care. We also have to look at costs. There's a lot of cost mechanisms in there. We talked about the ways to change Obamacare. Those same things can be used in Medicare. Also in Medicare and Medicaid, there's something people don't want to admit. There are huge amounts, and you hear this phrase all the time, but there are huge amounts of waste, fraud, and abuse. And no one wants to talk about that. We have illegal immigrants who are benefiting from the system we're paying for. Your Social Security number is on your card. If you look at it, that number has to be removed from that card. It is a huge part of waste, fraud, and abuse. I could go on forever, but I'm getting waved at. Folks, we have to solve it, but as Republicans, we have to make sure people understand we're going to solve it without impacting those folks who are currently under the programs.
Okay, the next question has to do with military spending. Obama feels that we should be cutting back on that as we wind down the wars and things. What's your opinion on the right amount of money to spend on the military?
Yes. The number one priority of the federal government should be the protection of its boundaries and its citizens. And the enumerations are more about defending our country than anything else. And so I believe that we need to invest in our military. We're living in a dangerous time. We need to do things, warfare is no longer about two armies facing each other out on the field. It's nuclear, it's biological, chemical, it's also cyber warfare, and also in the near future it's going to be electromagnetic pulses. And we need to have a military that can respond to any of those given situations and also rapidly deploy. There may be problems with wasteful spending, but we need to see that that gets redirected back into our military to be able to defend our country. We have a weak foreign policy under Obama, and we need to get it strong again, because I really believe in peace through strength. And we need a stronger foreign policy, and I could go into that longer too, but my time's up.
Well, I'm the only person up here that has served or currently serves in the military. I'm an intelligence officer at the Navy Reserves. Teresa's right. We're living in a dangerous world. People want to talk about Iraq and Afghanistan ramping down and things like that, but people want to ignore a lot of other problems we have in Syria and Iran, which you hear about all the time, but also in Southeast Asia with China and with other things that are going on. I think our foreign policy is very backwards, and what frustrates me more than anything as a person who serves is that what I see in Washington, D.C. is a bunch of career politicians, a bunch of bureaucrats that could not come to simple common sense solutions, and instead they got their partisan feelings in the way. We ran into partisan gridlock, and who gets the axe because of the partisan gridlock? Because our elected officials can't make decisions. The men and women in uniform. They couldn't make a decision on where we're going to cut this budget, so let's cut it from the military. And that's wrong. If we go through with the cuts that President Obama has proposed, we will have the smallest standing army since World War II. We will have the smallest standing Navy since World War I. We will have the smallest strike fighter force in the history of the United States of America. And I tell you, sincerely, in this day and age, with everything going on, we cannot afford that. We need a robust military. There's ways to cut government spending without putting the men and women in uniform in danger.
Excuse me.
As many of you know, as a young man, I served the city of Belleville as a police officer on the midnight shift, as a detective investigating crimes dealing with gangs out in St. Louis, as a homicide investigator in Madison, Monroe, and St. Clair County, investigating unbelievable, heinous crimes. I know the importance of keeping the public safe. I've been in the alleys. I've protected and served the people of my community, Belleville, and this three-county area. I know as mayor the importance when we had 3 cars on the street. When I ran for mayor, I said I would put 10 to 12 cars on the street by negotiating a contract with the police union that went to one-man cars. Guess what we did? We reduced crime because we put 12 cars out there all over, protecting when people are sleeping at night, and they're protected. This country, the most important service that our government provides us is to protect us from any enemies, domestic and abroad. I will never, never threaten our freedom by trying to make cuts. You know what you do? If you're the commander-in-chief, you listen to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the greatest military in the world, greatest commanders in the world, what they say, I as a congressman will support and fund to protect us, our kids, and our grandchildren in this country. Thank you.
The next question has to do with the Second Amendment. We'll try to make this just a show of hands, but I think we're probably about the same on this. I guarantee you. Raise your hand if you would support concealed carry. Okay. We won't ask you more questions on that. Next question. Should faith-based or faith-based affiliated organizations be forced to provide health care services that they feel are morally wrong?
No. And getting back to the gun question, I'd like to point out, I think it's more important than just the concealed carry part. When I ran for lieutenant governor, I was endorsed by the NRA, the Illinois State Rifle Association. I have a concealed carry license. I mean, I think it's ridiculous that you folks, the folks in Illinois, are the only state in the union that don't have the right to concealed carry. It's a constitutional right, and I am fed up with it. I think you deserve that right. Just like the constitutionality of forcing healthcare providers, businesses, whomever, colleges, whatever, to provide healthcare services that they find morally reprehensible. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. What I've seen in this federal government is it's grown beyond all the original intents and purposes of our founding fathers. It is making people do things that it would make our founding fathers spin in their grave. Absolutely not should they be forced to do it. It's not a matter of contraceptives. I find it ridiculous when we have the economy we have right now, when we have the foreign policy message we have right now, that we're hauling some girl from Georgetown University Law School before a panel of Congress to talk about contraceptives. It has absolutely nothing to do with contraceptives. It has everything to do with government trying to make people do things they don't want to do. I'm fed up with it. It's time we shrink the size of government. And when I go to Washington, D.C., that's my job one.
Simply put, it's an attack on our religious freedom. It's unconstitutional. And I would do everything in my power to fight that. I'm Catholic, been taught that life is sacred, and I'll be darned if the United States of America is going to tell me that I can't live by what I've been taught all my life. I am pro-life. I am the only one here that is 100% pro-life, with no exceptions. I believe marriage is between a man and a woman, and I will fight that. I will fight for what the conservative values that this country is founded on. And as simple as that. Thank you.
I also believe in our First Amendment right. And not many people might not know, the Obama administration, the Department of Justice, twice has gone before the Supreme Court and tried to get, there was a certain case where a church also fired their person and said that they could not be a minister in their church, and it's a long story. But anyways, the point is, twice they went to the Supreme Court. Twice, all the justices, 9-0, voted against what Obama wanted to do. Because even Ginsburg, who's one of the most radical people, told them that, well, if we go down this road, then we would be able to tell the Catholic religion that they have to have female priests. And it's just a slippery slope that we do not want to go down. And that's just the tip of the iceberg with this contraceptive issue and Obamacare. Because Obamacare, that 3,000-page bill, produced 4,000 pages of regulations, 170-some panels and committees that have nothing of bureaucrats that will control every aspect of healthcare, every aspect of your lives.
Okay, next question is, Rodger introduced it already, is how pro-life are you, I guess. Rodger said, just to follow up on what she said, you wouldn't have an exception for rape, incest, or the like of that. Is that correct? Would the other two like to explain their position on pro-life issue and any exceptions?
Can I
Just, go we were glad to have you. Why don't you do it first?
I'll start off here. Because this is a big struggle. It's easy when you're a young man, but when you have a daughter, and you think about your daughter laying there, and her husband's in there, that she's having a baby, and the doctor comes out and says, you know, if we don't abort the baby, it could kill the mother. Tough baby. I mean, you can all feel that. And you know what? I'll never judge. But the teaching that I have is life is sacred and God's in control. And it's a tough stance to take. But it's a stance that the church teaches. And I'll pray with anyone that comes to that situation and hope to God that everything comes out best. But who are we to judge others who are in terrible, heinous situations? But that's the teaching of the church, and we can't choose which one to follow and which not to fit our life.
I'm pro-life, but most pro-life organizations do allow an exception in case of a true medical problem, and that's where I stand. As a nurse, I work with people, and probably in the 34 years I've been a nurse, there's only been about 2 cases I've seen of true medical necessity that the person had to have an abortion. And it was tough and agonizing. You know, in a perfect world, I'd love to say no abortions for anyone. But this was a case of a young woman. She had a set of triplets at home under the age of 5. And got some type of cancer that her doctor told her she'd never be able to carry the baby. She needed to start chemotherapy. What was she going to do? I don't know what I would do. You know, I might put everything in God's hands and pray, but still, for those rare medical cases, it is between the woman and her physician.
Absolutely, and I'd like to add too, you know, I'm the only candidate up here that's actually been endorsed by pro-life organizations. Because it's important, it's very important, that you have folks out there that have consistency with their beliefs. And I've always argued that, you know, I am pro-life, just like I'm pro-gun. Man and woman should be the ones getting married. I am a social conservative, but I'm a conservative. And I don't like government getting in the way and telling everybody what they have to do. And sometimes that goes against our conservative beliefs as well. I'm pro-life, I've always been pro-life, I will always vote pro-life, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to tell other people how they have to live each and every part of their life. I think Theresa brought up a wonderful example, you know, and you know, there's personal situations that people have, and I find it very frightening when other people try to make decisions and stand in other people's shoes when they've never experienced their life experiences. I'm pro-life. As I said before, I've been endorsed by a lot of pro-life and pro-family organizations, and I will always stand there and proudly stand up to anybody that would question how pro-life one really is.
Just a rebuttal, the largest pro-life family organization, most respected in the state of Illinois, Federal Family PAC, Paul Caprio endorsed me months ago. So that's not true.
No, folks, I want you to hear this, and I want you to hear this loud and clear. Illinois is a mess. The United States of America is a mess. And we're a mess because the Democrat Party is corrupt at times, and the Republican Party is corrupt at times. And let me tell you a story. Let me tell you a story, and this is important to hear. There's an organization Rodger was just talking about named Family PAC. And the executive director of Family PAC is a gentleman named Paul Caprio. And when I was running for lieutenant governor, I went up and I met with Paul Caprio. And I see some people in the crowd who probably know this organization. And I sat down in his office in the city of Chicago with a guy named Ray Marchiori, who's a pro-life activist. And I sat down in front of Paul Caprio, and I said, Paul, I've been endorsed by the Illinois Federation Right to Life, which is the largest pro-life organization in the state of Illinois. I said, I've been endorsed by Eagle Forum. I've been endorsed by all kinds of conservative organizations. I stand where you stand on the conservative values at Family PAC, Paul. So I'd like to have your endorsement. And he said, well, Jason, here's the deal. Family PAC will endorse you. But I need you to write me a $5,000 check. And when you write me this $5,000 check, we will run robocalls for you. We will buy signs for you, and we'll send out mailings for you. And I said, Paul, I'm not here to buy endorsements, I'm here to earn endorsements. I'm a conservative, I've always been a conservative, I will always be a conservative. For those of you that are conservatives in this crowd, you talk to the folks at Illinois Review, you talk to folks like Fran Eaton, you talk to conservative legislators out there about Family PAC. That is not an endorsement you earn, that is an endorsement you buy. And I will tell you this, I will prove this. They endorsed my opponent in that race. This is important, Tim, because there are organizations out there, you buy their endorsement. And I told Paul, I'm a conservative, I'm not here to buy your endorsement, I'm here to earn your endorsement. They endorsed a gentleman named Don Tracy. Don's a friend of mine. Don's a Democrat. Don ran with Rod Blagojevich, but he ran against me for lieutenant governor. He is a Democrat. Family PAC endorsed them. Don wrote them a check for $3,000. Folks, Family PAC is not an endorsement that true conservatives have. Family PAC is an endorsement you go and you buy. And Rodger, I'm offended that you were trying to trick people like that.
Oh, the truth will set you free. Paul Caprio is the most respected pro-life leader, and it's not in the city of Chicago, it's in the Republican area of Schaumburg. And Paul Caprio was introduced to me. Let me tell you about spending money. Not one person, Ben Evans back here is my campaign manager, he gets nothing. Mike Size from Washington, D.C. has got nothing. My volunteer coordinator has got nothing. My office manager has got nothing. You know, all the people that are working for me are grassroots people. I don't spend money, because you know what, we're going to the people. I am pro-life, no exceptions, you can't say that. That's why I'm endorsed by him. You see, anybody see the billboard at 64 coming across from St. Louis? You know who paid for that? Family PAC. Rodger Cook didn't do anything to Family PAC. Rodger Cook said, I'm pro-life, no exceptions. And that's why I got the endorsement. He couldn't say that. Couldn't say it after he ran for lieutenant governor when he was 27 years old. Thank you.
I'll get my 2 cents in. You know, being the only woman in the room, I usually have to be the person to kind of smooth things over. You women know what I mean, you know, when there's friction in the house, okay? But, you know, that's why it's great to have debates. And I'm glad that I'm with these two, you know, having these debates. But you also need to do your own homework, too, and check things out. And as far as the kind of approval that I want the voters. Thank you.
There was a reason for the seating arrangement. It worked just fine. All right, that's the end of the questions I'm going to ask. We're going to give you guys time to ask questions, but there may be some of you that have enough and ready to go home. So we're just going to have a little stretch break for about 5 minutes. Those of you that like to leave, thank you.
I'll start off. Well, I'll go back to when I was mayor of Belleville 20 years ago. I got elected. There's 16 aldermen. 12 of them were not members of my party. Brought 4 in with me when I got elected. And to get done what I wanted to do, that meant I had to bring 4 more over and have an 8-8 tie so I could break the tie. And which I had to get them to come over and do it. So I got out and I led on issues, pushed legislation forward. And it's true that in my 4 years as mayor, I voted more times as mayor than every mayor in the city's history of over 200 years. That's hard to believe that. When we go to Capitol Hill and go up there to push legislation, you're going to have to work across the aisle because there's good Americans on the other side that are worried about their kids and grandkids. We have to send people up there not to represent a party, but represent the conservative values of this district and this country.
On my website, I list things that are priorities for me, but the number 1 is the pivotal of everything. I don't believe we can solve our financial situation here unless we have true tax reform. And I think we're a flat tax. No, it'll be a lower tax. And something that's equitable across the board for everyone, whether it's individuals, families, businesses. Two economists, Milton Friedman and Art Laffer, said that by lowering taxes, it increases jobs, you're widening the tax base, and you're going to increase the revenue, which will also help pay down the national debt.
Well, I think there's a lot of things you have to be focused on in terms of local resources and things we can utilize as congressmen. But the most important thing a person can do to have a quick and direct impact on this area is what I said in my opening statement. This race isn't about going to Washington, D.C. and fighting 1 out of 435 people for all the different prizes and gifts and earmarks and stuff you can bring back to this district. This is about running the type of campaign that it's going to take to win this congressional seat, but at the same time, working with folks like Julie Eggers and Mike Babcock, working with folks running for state senate and state legislature in this area, working with people like John McClain and county board candidates here in St. Clair County. So we don't just win a congressional seat in November. If I win a congressional seat in November and we don't pick up more state legislative seats and we don't pick up more county seats, it's going to be a pretty hollow victory. If you want to have a direct impact on this area, property taxes, sales taxes, local spending, the things that direct you the quickest and the fastest, things that impact you the quickest and the fastest, you do it by running the type of campaign like I've pledged to do, where I work with all the state candidates and all those county candidates. This isn't about Jason Plummer. This is about changing the dynamics of the 12th Congressional District from this day forward. You do it by making sure in November you don't just win, that the Republican ticket of conservative candidates wins up and down the ballot. That's what we're going to do in November.
Hey, that question. Yes.
My concern is about border security because north and south borders are open because they're wilderness and because of the EPA. We can't do any patrolling in there, and that is the key area where apparently there's smuggling and there's drug running and there's terrorism crossing from both the north and the south borders. Well, do you have a plan on how to make our country safe without us being the prisoners of our own country?
Right. You know, is it also related to the immigration issue as well? Is that what you're asking?
Well, part of it is the National Defense Act that was passed December by Obama pretty much gives him the right of the military to arrest any U.S. citizens anywhere in the world without due process, without habeas corpus. They can be tried, and they never see their accuser. It's a violation of the 4th, 5th, 6th Amendments. And that is a troubling sense. I mean, if you think of TSA, who do they, for instance, they check and grandmas and women. Why aren't they checking the other ones?
Can you understand her? I can't.
Well, there's a lot that I can answer and about that, whether we're talking immigration, secure borders, the poor policies that Obama has, not to mention also the Department of Homeland Security, which has just grown far way above what they were supposed to, intended to. And they're focusing, like you said, on the pat-downs rather than real solutions to the problems to keep us safe. You know, we can go off in different directions with that questions, but I do, you know, you started out with talking about borders. When we're talking about immigration issues too with the borders, no one can agree on exactly what to do. Even the conservative groups within the Republicans go off in different directions. But what I say is we need to secure the borders first, then to have a robust discussion of what we're going to do after that. And I would see that money gets directed to doing that for the secure borders, or whatever technology we need for the certain areas along the border to keep us safe as well. And then we do also need to have a stronger foreign policy as well. And we might need to look at things. Sorry, my time's up.
No, I think it's a great question. And I'll take you back for a second to the State of the Union. And President Obama, if you remember during the State of the Union, he said that his administration has seen the fewest illegal immigrant crossings in the last 20 years, which is true. But it's not because they've defended the border, it's because they've decimated the economy and the illegal immigrants can't even find jobs. They're leaving, okay? So my goal, after we reform the economy, after we get robust economic growth, those illegal immigrants are going to want to come back and they're going to want to find jobs again. If you were on the Titanic, I hope before you were bailing out water, you were trying to figure out how to plug the holes. That's what we have to do. We have to plug the holes and bail out the water. We plug the holes by border security, drones, boots on the ground. You also make sure that you get rid of the magnets to illegal immigration. You make it harder for people to employ illegal immigrants. You punish people that knowingly employ illegal immigrants. You also have to look at things like I would do as your congressman. I would vote to withhold funding from any state and any city that acts as a sanctuary state or city to illegal immigrants. We don't have a lot of elected officials willing to do that. What you have to do is you got to make it harder for them to come here, and you got to want them to come here. You got to make it more difficult for them to get here when they do want to come here, folks.
On the issue of border security, illegal immigration, we need to build a fence along the border. All the way along, we need to put more security out there. It's one of the most important threats we have in this country. In Mexico's drug war, all the murders going on down there, that the United States government is not going to enforce our illegal immigration laws, which this president will not. Then I support Arizona, I support Texas, I support those border states to defend ourselves. In regards to rights on terrorists or homegrown terrorists, law enforcement is such a tough situation when you get intelligence information that you can't share with the public on a local level, state level, or even a national level. I know it's a tough line to cross. We have our rights, and I share that with you. But I also tell you that there's some people out there that would like to slit our throat, and there's men and women out there that are protecting us, and we've got to give them the tools to protect our country. So I share your concerns. I hope they give us a legal ruling that straddles that fine line. Thank you.
I'll introduce Alexa Edwards and wave for Alexa. And Rocky McDonald, wave for Rocky. We're the two owners that allowed us to use this space. Give them a bigger hand.
Of course, the Washington policy where you have laws and benefits for the people who are in the Congress or the Senate versus what we people out here in the general public have. For instance, you don't have Social Security, you don't have your hospitalization Medicare that we have to contend with. You got something much better. You feel like we're treated like you folks are better than we are.
Absolutely, great question. And you know, I'm a candidate. I've been doing town halls around, and talking to people from around the district in my town halls. And we did one just the other day, and that question came up 2 or 3 times. He's absolutely right. People in the Senate, people in the House of Representatives, people in other federal positions that have the ability to, they've given themselves pay increases. They make more money on average than folks in the equal education, equal fields of the private sector. They've given themselves great health care benefits. They've given themselves sweet pension plans, and it's absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's like I said before, this seat for the last 72 years has been held by 2 people. That's absolutely ridiculous. We need to get rid of the career politicians, we need to get rid of the career bureaucrats, and we need to turn it back to how our founding fathers envisioned it. That was people like me stepping away from my business, going to Washington, D.C., and then going back to our business. I love the Navy. I love our family business. I want to be doing that 20 years from now. I don't want to be in Washington, D.C. 20 years from now. We need term limits. We need to make it less comfortable and less enticing to be an elected official, and we need to remind people it's a service, it's not a gift, it's not a benefit.
Our founding fathers sent congressmen to Washington, D.C. to represent the people for 2 years. It was a sacrifice. We sent somebody from Carbondale back in the 1800s to represent the people. They had to get to Washington, D.C. They left their family, they left their farm, they left their business, they left their kids. And you know what? His or her neighbor took care of his family on the farm. It was a sacrifice. Politicians, parties, the insiders, the power brokers, the elitists have turned it into a way of life. We send school teachers to Washington, D.C. and they come back millionaires. How do they do it? Well, first off, you sign the tax pledge, or the term limit pledge, which I have. 3 terms, which is 6 years for a congressman, 2 terms, or 12 years for a senator. You don't take the pension, like Theresa and I have talked about. We're not taking a pension. I'm going to put in Social Security because that's all I got. I don't have any other public pensions from when I was a police officer or mayor. We go up there, we take the same health care as you take. Let's turn it back into public service so we can go up there and represent our values and not join the club, be a party elite, be a power broker. That's what's wrong with this country, and both parties do it. True conservative people going up there representing us is what we need.
And as a nurse for 34 years, I know what it is to be a public servant. I've done it for 34 years. And that's why I have a contract with each and every one of you, and I have that on my website in writing, that I believe I'll only run for 4 terms. That's a total of 8 years, the same what a president gets. I also waive, and I have that in writing, I waive the benefit of a pension, because that's not why I want to go to Washington, D.C. I want to go to fight for our country and get us back to our Constitution. And you can read, there's a lot of other things that I have a contract that I state in that. But I will work for you. I don't believe that we need to be paying our congresspeople that much money. That they, you know, back in the 1800s, they were paid per diem. And look where we've come from per diem to how much money they make. So I'd also vote to decrease their salaries as well.
Okay, we're gonna visit with the candidates. Will you guys be able to stay here for a while? Theresa, will you be able to stay for a while too? Jason?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. Stay, shake their hands, meet them personally, get your picture with them. But one of them's gonna be the next Congress. I'll remind you, you're the people that are gonna make the difference. You gotta talk to your neighbors, you gotta get involved. When you came in, either Mary checked you off the list or you signed up. And that means we can contact you and let you know what's going on and how you can get involved. If you kind of slipped in with a herd of people that came at the end and we don't have your name and phone number and stuff, please give it to us before you leave tonight. Okay, closing comments.
Tim, the guys are fighting who's to go first.
Oh, I never thought about all the details.
How about the 29-year-old being the adult? Folks, we need serious people. We need serious people. And I love what Theresa said earlier. Theresa said, you know, don't just read what you read on somebody's website. They're going to put good things, I assure you. Don't read just what you can Google. Do some research. Look into our backgrounds. This is an opportunity the Republican Party, I would argue, has never had in this area. Has never had in this area. And we can't risk this. We can't make a mistake. We need serious candidates who have a long track record of standing up for conservative values. You know, it wasn't that long ago Madison County's county board was 28-1 Democrat. And when I became county chairman up there, I said Republicans are going to take back the Madison County board. We're going to take it back in Madison County this cycle. There are 42 Republicans running for office in Madison County. There are 35 Republicans running for office right here in St. Clair County. Folks, up and down the 12th Congressional District, we have an opportunity to have a wave election and change this area like we've never had before. But we need to send someone who's been vetted. We need to send someone who has always been a Republican. We need to send someone who's always stood up for conservative values. We need someone who understands how poor public policy negatively impacts jobs and workers. We need to send someone who understands how the Republican Party and the Democrat Party has tried to game the system for far too long. We need someone that's going to go out there and is responsive to the people. Not someone that's looking to be a congressman, someone that's looking to serve the people. The only reason why I'm in this race, and I sat down with Pete Sessions, the chairman of the NRCC, and I said to him before I even got into this race, do you pledge to me that this race will be a top 10 race in the country? And he said no. I pledge to you this race will be a top 3 race in the country if you get in it, because we know we have a huge opportunity. I'm running because I know we can win this seat, but most importantly, and I've said it once, I've said it twice, and I'm going to keep drilling it on it, this is an opportunity to elect many of those 35 Republicans that are running in St. Clair County, many of those 42 Republicans that are running in Madison County, and change this area for once and for all. But we're not going to do it without your help. I don't look at you all like 60 people that are going to go vote on March 20th, 60 people that can go vote in November. You are 60 people that I hope and I encourage to go out to church, go to the high school basketball games, go to your place of work, go to your neighborhood, go to it wherever you spend your time, whatever your network is, and tell them how important this election cycle is. But do not be tricked, do not be fooled, don't listen to our talking points up here, because we're only going to say what we think you want to hear. Look at our backgrounds, look at our history, look at the scars we have, because we have fought for the conservative battle in this area for a long time. And when you do that, make the right decision in March, make sure you get all your folks to the polls, and make sure in November, we shock the Democrats and we pick up seats they never thought we could pick up. We're only going to do it with your help. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. When I was in Washington, D.C. and met with John Boehner and Pete Sessions, they shook my hand and they said that they're committed to this district no matter who wins. I believe them and take their word for that. But also I want to reiterate that you all need to do your jobs, doing your homework. Don't just look at our websites or what your friends say. Don't even just Google. Go to the library and use other databases, because you see, Google can be manipulated too. You know, so look up our names, see what we've done, and you will see that I am the only candidate with the longest track record of actual success. And success and experience does matter, because that will indicate how well they'll perform in Washington, D.C. for you. You know, look at Obama. Look how he fooled people with all his talk and flash, and he did nothing. And so don't you be fooled. You do your homework. And have a safe trip home.
In my open, I told you why I ran for mayor of Belleville. I'm going to tell you why I'm running for Congress. These last 15 years of my life, after leaving the office of mayor of Belleville, I worked in the financial industry, from Alton down to Cairo, in Carbondale, in Murfreesboro, in Marion, in West Frankfort, in DuQuoin, in Perry County, in Hickneyville, in Waterloo, in Columbia, in Belleville, every city down there I worked with clients. Well, in last January, I had 3 of them call me and get a lunch together and ask me to consider running for Congress. I said, you're crazy. I sacrificed a lot to run for mayor and to do what I did there. And it's tough when you go into office and not join the club and fight for what's right for the people. Well, on the way home, I knew I was going to have a hard time not doing this, because nobody else would have the courage and get in to take Jerry Costello in. No disrespect to Theresa. Theresa ran last cycle, her and Terry Newman. I didn't think anybody was in this race that could beat Jerry Costello. I gave my job up September 30th from a CPA firm that I worked for. My wife and I are sacrificing. We run full time. I had the courage and guts to take Jerry Costello on, and it's $2.5 million. What happened? 3 days later, after I announced, Jerry Costello got out. Yeah. So I asked Steve McGlynn about that. Steve McGlynn will tell you, Rodger Cook knocked Jerry Costello out. Jason and I had a meeting together, because Jason was looking at this seat. But he had went to Washington, D.C. and said, no, I'm not taking on Jerry Costello. And I met with him. I met with you. I met with you at the Arby's, bought him lunch, and told him about myself. And I asked him for my support. He told me that, I said, are you now looking to get back in since Jerry Costello got out? You said, you're doing polling.
This is absolutely false.
Well,
No, it's not.
Jason,
He can respond, he can respond. This is absolutely true. Huh?
The time's up, so City, make your motion.
Okay, my point being, when we talk about going up and doing public service and representing the values in this district, I've lived in this district for 55 years, every day of my life. I pay taxes here, raised a family here, worked here every day of my life. I took a stand, gave my job up because I'm worried about the future, and I am the person to go up there, and the only person that's fully transparent, that's released his taxes, and can be elected. Thank you.
First off, Theresa ran against Jerry, put herself out there to run against Jerry Casella in 2010, while I was putting myself out there to run against Pat Quinn. I was at the Heritage Foundation in 2005. I came back from the Heritage Foundation to become the Madison County Republican chairman. There's a lot of things I could say about that story, but I'll just be really honest with you folks. There is a reason why every Republican elected official in Madison County, in St. Clair County, and Monroe County, we're talking about people like Steve Reed. We're talking about people like your county board candidates. We're talking about people like your state legislative candidates. There's a reason why those folks have endorsed my candidacy. And I'll tell you why that is. Theresa and I get frustrated a lot, because we hear a lot of stories. But when Theresa and I were fighting for Steve Reed in 2004, when we were fighting for Steve McGlynn in 2006, when we were fighting back when I was in junior high and high school to get Republicans elected in the 90s, there's another person up here who was voting in Democrat primaries, that was taking money from the Washington Park Democrat Central Committee, that was taking money from all of the big Democrat attorneys, that was taking money from all these Democrat organizations. And now that person gets up in front of you and questions the sincerity of Theresa Kormos and Jason Plummer.
I've never.
We find that,
That's a lie.
we find that offensive.
It's a lie.
And I stand up here, all the paperwork's right here, folks. And we stand up in front of you as true conservatives. I've been in this race for a long time, but I make decisions based on reality and numbers and the opportunity for the Republican Party. We've never had an opportunity like this before. I'm not in this for me, I'm in this for us. We're going to work together as a team, and we're going to change this area from this day forward with your help. Thank you for coming out here. Thank you for being Republicans, and thank you for showing that this election cycle is too important to sit on the sidelines.
Let me just bring up one thing.
Hang on, you got to restrict it to this, the charge of just kind of a Democrat.
What do you guys think Bob Sprague, the St. Clair County Democratic chairman, when I won the election, and I booted him out of office? And I'm going to tell you what these guys keep telling them. They know, and not Theresa, I haven't heard her since day one, but him and his people. If you remember when I ran for re-election in mayor of Belleville in 1997, the New Democrat endorsed me. They said Rodger Cook turned the city around. He did more in 4 years than has been done in 10 years. Held the line on taxes, reduced crime. Take a look at it. It's on our website, isn't it, Ben? In 1997, when I run for election, everything I did. Guess what happened 3 days before I took office, before the election? Bruce Cook, the most powerful attorney in St. Clair County, had me before a grand jury trying to bloody me because they owned every judge in the courthouse and every office holder. But you know what I did? I stood right in there toe-to-toe with them. I did nothing wrong. They knew it. They tried to bloody me. Guess who was my attorney? Steve McGlynn. Steve McGlynn, I ask any of you to know Judge Steve McGlynn, did all this stuff. Ask him about it. He'll tell you the truth. Rodger Cook is an honorable man, never did nothing wrong, and he's the only kind of guy that can stand up to the most powerful attorneys, powerful brokers in this city and this county, and he did it for 4 years in a row. You, at 29 years old, you don't know what a fight is. I'm telling you what, you come from where I come from. nothing, with no father, with a strong mother, and earn everything you've got. You question my character, and I'm going to fight back. No, okay, I'll close it off. You want to talk? I'm not a Democrat, I'm a conservative, have been all my life, my whole foundation. Huh? Well, I'm just answering, I am not a Democrat. Okay.
You can't. The full moon.
That's not true, I did not accept money from them. Who are you telling? Tell them.
If anybody questions me, please come see me as soon as Rodger.
If somebody, do you think you're running for the city of Belleville and somebody donated money to my campaign, that means I'm a Democrat? That is not true.
It was the Democrat Central Committee.
Okay, guys, we gotta stop.
Yeah, hey, I want to see it too, but thank you very much. But this is what you got to deal with when you can't go head on somebody's character.
Let's give these guys a hand for coming out tonight. Mary, what was the count tonight? How many did you
I
get?
counted about, I didn't get everybody to sign in, and so if you didn't and you would still like to, that'd be great, but there was around 120 just when I did a head count.
Yeah, I guess before we're ready, if are there any candidates in the room that are running for office, you can stand up.
Right here.
Stand up and state your name and what you're running.